Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Selfmade podcast sponsored by Rock and Words. We are here live at the Cash App Content House. Well, we're not live, but
Boy, wow.
Opposite of live.
The opposite of live. We're taped.
off to a great start. We have the wonderful. Now, listen, you have a long list of accolades and titles, so I'm going to get this right.
Titles, oh.
Yes. So we have Felicia Day here.
That's my name.
She is an actress, writer, and producer,
Okay.
a multi-streamy award winner,
True.
creator of Geek and Sundry,
Yep.
author of the new book, Embrace Your Weird,
That's it.
which I love the title, by the way.
Thank you.
And currently on season 2 of her sci-fi improv podcast, Voyage to the Stars.
That's one of many things. Yeah, that's it.
I feel like we didn't
You
even
nailed it.
get it all.
I mean, if you look at my IMDb, it goes on forever. I'm like one of those sort of like I'm a acting nomad. I'm a
Okay.
performing nomad. So I just basically hop from one thing to another. Inevitably, a television will just show will kill me off, and then I'll just hop onto another one. So that's it.
I love that IMDb line. That's like the best flex that I think we've had so far in the Self-Made
Was that a
podcast.
flex?
No, it wasn't a flex, but I take it as a flex.
Is
Like,
it?
I interpret it as like, I do shit.
We have a lot of like digital creators and people kind of like that have only been on that side of the world.
Yes.
So I think the traditional stuff is like extra impressive.
Is it really? Okay. I don't feel like I'm impressive, but I mean, for my web video stuff, I always assigned an intern to like input all my web video stuff into IMDb. So like I have some real shady videos that I just shot but they're on IMDb. So maybe, I don't know, get an intern to do that.
We've had
Wikipedia
a
page, too.
couple interns at
Wikipedia.
100 Thieves. Yeah.
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 We'll have to work on that.
You
We're
could
gonna work
try.
on it.
You could try. I
But-
mean, they're pretty loose, IMDb. Don't they do porn? No.
Huh?
I'm not
Say
sure.
that again?
Don't they do porn?
Who?
IMDb?
They might.
I don't know. I've never searched for porn.
I haven't either on
Does IMDb? Can we?
I don't think so.
We looked that up.
They do?
Felicia?
Wait, they have some nods. We have some nods from behind. Yeah, okay, see? I mean, if they can have porn, they should have web video, right? Internet video.
I think we should put all of your YouTube videos on IMDb.
100% of them. Yeah, try. I bet someone will slip through.
Freak out. House tour.
That would be a terrible IMDb page. Do they? Aren't IMDb? Is it IMDb?
Yeah.
Aren't those pages ranked too? Don't.
They are. You have a ranking as a person. So like my ranking has gone up, like depending on when, you're on a show. So then
Okay.
people search you more often and then you'll just like pop up. You're like, oh, you're top 100 on IMDb. Like that's something
Is
exciting.
that where you base your self-worth?
I
entirely?
mean, yeah, but I base my self-worth on all external things and I'm working on with my therapist on that right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We should have had your IMDb rating in the intro.
It's probably negative 1,500 right now.
You can be negative?
I mean, no, but
I
they
think that was the joke, Charles.
yeah, it's okay.
It shows how little I know about IMDb ratings. Anyway, we should probably move on from
Yeah, we're getting off
it's
the rails.
really not even that exciting. This is me. I'm so sorry.
No, wait, this is perfect. You're keeping me on my toes. I can already tell this is going to be fun.
Boy, I don't believe a word you say.
The funny thing is, usually I feel like one of your brand, like main parts of your brand, is being authentic, but she's just inherently
She's ripping into my soul. Your life is lying. All the things that come out of your mouth are bullshit.
No,
okay.
I like it. You have it like you're able to be sincere without being sincere. Like you could have it both ways. You can dig everybody all the time.
We
and
met
just
10
be
minutes
like,
ago. We met 10 minutes ago. All right, Felicia, before you tear apart my life anymore, what we're going to do is really quickly give a shout out to Rocket Mortgage. So you don't have to do anything here. You just think about all the things going on in your life and what you got to do later
having to
today.
do with mortgages. Okay.
Yeah, mortgages. You're going to learn a lot from
No,
right here.
I'm listening.
I want to take a moment to give a huge shout out to Rocket Mortgage, the presenting sponsor of the Selfmade podcast. We've worked with them since the beginning of 100 Thieves. As a partner, they understand that home is so much more than a house, and nothing is more proof of that than the incredible additions this year to our Rocket Mortgage team house for our LCS team. It's very true. I say this every single time. The beginning of this year was phenomenal. What Rocket Mortgage did to elevate our practice experience and helping our team play better, and hopefully we continue to do that. Their dedication to going that extra mile has not only allowed us to elevate 100 Thieves content, but also works to make the home buying process smoother for their clients. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Push button, get mortgage. Felicia Day,
Yep. What up?
where were you born?
Wow. Okay, we're going that. I was born in Huntsville, Alabama.
Alabama.
So, and I lived in the South. My dad was in the military, so we moved everywhere. And I was on military bases my whole life, and that's why I was homeschooled. So that's why I'm pretty weird. That's the roots of it all.
Sounds like you probably learned a lot of different things that you wanted to learn about. I feel like homeschooling, you have an opportunity to explore your interests.
I did. I slept in a lot and I played a lot of video games.
That sounds incredible.
It is incredible. I never took a test. I never woke up before 10 before I was like 16. So like I had it was pretty cush. I did schedule myself a little. I would Lost in Space is on at 11. I'm going to watch that. Like, I did a little math here and there and I had a lot of lessons. So like I have like a lot of skills that aren't applicable to most professions like ballet and opera and violin, but they serve me well in Hollywood. So I think Hollywood you got to be a jack of all trades to get ahead of here anyway. So
You're very different guests than most creators that we've had. I mean, we've had a wide variety. We've had businessmen and women. We've had recently a lot of different YouTubers, mostly in the gaming space. And I feel like this is the first time where there's so much that I don't know about you that
okay. Let's unpack.
Really, yeah, we should unpack. So do you think homeschooling put you on a trajectory that might have been different if you were in just a traditional school structure?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I was kind of lonely as a kid, and I wasn't around other children, so I
You were an
used
only
the
child?
internet. I had a younger brother, but we hated each other. Just kidding. I love my brother. I did not like him when we were children, but that's a little too deep.
My sister and I were the same. We hated
Really?
each other. I mean, we don't talk as much anymore, but we're obviously like friends. But she was the oldest, I was the youngest. We hated each other.
Yeah, it's weird because you could be and we were really isolated. So you think, hey, we'll pal up. We were like, no. The only time we palled up was playing video games. So we had video games I basically grew up on playing video games with my brother and the online world, which was like the pre-internet because I am older than you guys. And basically, I was addicted to kind of logging onto MUDs and Prodigy and CompuServe and like all those really early internet stuff. Let me tell you a story. In the olden days, there were things not on the internet. So it was. I'm dating myself, right? I'm still young.
I knew some of those words you said, not many.
It's basically dial-up. You would dial up for your computer, and it would go. Pew, 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 pew.
I know what dial-up
What
is.
types of games were you playing?
I had an Amiga, which meant I was the nerd of all video gamers, which is like a deep subset, right? Like back in the day. And so we had an Amiga. And I would play Fairy Tale Adventure, like a lot of RPGs, Ultima games, like old school kind of like Wizardry, all that kind of stuff. So my mom wouldn't get us a console because she's like, I don't want you to waste your life. And yet she let us play 6 hours a day on the other computer. I'm like, did you think we were playing Math Blaster the whole time? I don't know. She was sleeping. It was great.
Did you play Oregon Trail at all?
I did play Oregon Trail. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. A lot of dysentery.
Do you play? Yeah, lots
Lot
of
of
there.
poops.
Do you play any like modern day RPGs at all?
Me right now?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, I play all sorts of games. I play. I stream weekly on Twitch,
Gotcha.
so I have a Twitch channel. It's just Saturday night. Come on down. It's when the cool people play. And I've been playing Assassin's Creed, Odyssey. I played through Lara Croft. I like the adventure games. Played a little. I like little Steam games. Dicey Dungeon is one that I've been playing recently, which is really fun. So low pressure games. I don't like to be hunted in video games, so I'm not really like. I decided that years ago. Like I had so many years where I'm like, okay, just play Halo, play Dynasty, like show everybody you're a quote unquote real gamer. And I was like, screw it. I don't want to be hunted on my off time. So I'm like, sometimes I play multiplayer. Here's the Storm I was super into when it first came out.
Right.
Like a little bit of Overwatch, but yeah, I'm a little twitchy, like I said earlier.
Did you see any of the announcements made from Riot yesterday?
No, what happened?
Basically, Riot said F you to the entire gaming industry and is making every genre of video game ever.
Oh, that's exciting.
They literally made one game for the last 10 years.
No, I know.
And on their 10th anniversary, they announced, I think, like 8 games.
They announced they're making a
Whoa.
card game that'll be a competitor to Hearthstone. They're coming out with their own FPS. It'll be a competitor to CSGO and Overwatch. They're making
Ooh.
their own fighting game.
There's like an RPG in the works.
That's exciting.
Buttons on your phone.
I mean, you'd think they would have tried that earlier, right? Like,
So there's been a lot of rumors, I think, and I think
Yeah.
one of my friends joked it'd be like Apple releasing like the iPod, doing nothing for 10 years, and then like iPhone, iPad, Mac,
everything at the
just
same
everything
time.
at
Yeah.
once.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be good, right? Like, I mean, they have
I'm
such
optimistic.
who knows,
Do you find any frustration on Twitch? Because I completely agree with you when you say that. Like most viewers are watching like Fortnite, or they're watching. Back in the day, it'd be like the big three. They're watching like Halo and
Yeah.
Gears of War and Call of Duty, just like the traditional mainstream games.
Yeah.
Do you find any difficulty finding your place, or you, at this point you don't really care? It seems like you have a lot going on in your life with your book and a lot of different traditional acting you do.
Yeah, I never. So I created a company. So back in, I wrote a web series called The Guild. It was about a girl who was addicted to video games. Somebody liked it. Behind the camera, I love you too. So I wrote this, and this was like during the beginning of YouTube. So I shot it in my garage and I put it up on the internet, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, because I'm talking to people I love, because I was addicted to WoW for many years. And I'm talking about people I love, to people I love, in a venue that I know really well, the internet. And it's sort of like, that's why it took off. So I did that for 6 years. And then in the interim, like toward the end, I started a company called Geek and Sundry, and that was a YouTube channel that kind of branched out into other places. And Geek and Sundry kind of specialized in tabletop games, and I did other shows, like other video game shows, but mostly not competitive games, mostly like more RPG related kind of stuff. And then I think this is my 5th year streaming myself. So like 5 years ago, I started streaming for my own just fun.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like done with the YouTube world. Like that ecosystem really does not foster community in the way that I love. It's not really, especially back in the day. I think there's some moderation tools now, but still it doesn't encourage people to connect directly with each other versus like just only one-to-one with whoever's on the screen. And I like that sort of like connection. Like every year at Comic-Con, we'd throw huge parties, and hundreds of fans would have a dance party, because I was like, I just want to have a party. And thank goodness for sponsors, right? So that was really what really drove me. And so when I started just streaming on Twitch for myself just once a week, it was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. I mean, yeah, there's some jerks that come in, but look how easily I can ban them. And then the community gets into banning them. And it's like, oh, you can like have your own little corner of the internet and make sure that it's like a place that people feel safe and welcome with these tools and this platform. So I really got into it. And that's, I encouraged I was like, oh, we got to do a Twitch channel for Geek and Sundry. So at the time we were one of the most successful companies to ever come in and have a Twitch channel. When I started it, there's a group called Critical Role, which is really a prominent D&D group. And that was a group that I found through a friend of mine, Ashley, who's a member. And I basically, they became sort of our tentpole, and they've subsequently been, so basically, I have a long winding road to getting here, but at the end of the day, like, I'm not looking to become a professional Twitch streamer. Like, my subs are like a one-time fee, and it all goes to charity, because I don't feel honest in taking, a lot if I go off and do a movie for a month or something like that. So I just do it for fun, honestly. And I don't have tons of fans, but I have fun with the people who are there, and that's all that counts.
No, I really love what you said about having like your own corner of the internet. I feel like I've been a part of the streaming community for so long that you sort of get disconnected from the roots and why you started streaming. Yeah. And to hear you embrace that and really talk about money isn't a priority for you. You're obviously doing so many other things. But money is important.
But I think, I was in this world where I'm like dependent on my fans and the approval, and like trying to be great, get lots of views on YouTube is so hard, because you kind of have to play to what the audience wants versus what you want to do. Yeah. And I constantly felt this sort of like pull and push, like, okay, I guess we'll do, a cosplay show. Like, I don't know, do we do this show because it might be popular, but because it wasn't organic to what we loved, I don't think it hit, it just maybe wasn't a great fit in a sense sometimes. And that was really discouraging, to have my self-worth and my business be all just on that number. And to me, being so careful, like, I think if you look at personalities, like, a lot of people are afraid of like making political statements and, speaking out in a way that they think their fans won't like. And I think the Twitch experiment for me, at Geek and Sundry, I was like, okay, we're just not going to put up with jerks. We're going to have a very, very strict guideline about what you can say to people. We're going to have mods be actively involved, and we're going to really kind of like have a strict kind of policy of no assholes here, right? Yeah. And a lot of people would be like, no, I just have to let the mob rule. And like, if we censor this word, people are going to be like, ugh. But to me, I found like, yeah, you're going to alienate some people. But just like when I talk about in my book, like, embrace your weird, it's like, show your weirdness. It's your superpower. Yeah, some people might not be like turned on by that, or like they'll be turned off. But if you show that, you're going to attract the people who are right for your community. And so the sacrifice in the short term is hard, but the long term, I think, is better, because you'll create an atmosphere where people really genuinely want to connect with each other.
Right. That's really powerful. I think one of the things, before we get too far, you've done so many things in your career. I think it would be cool to go back a little bit further. After you talked about growing up a little bit, going into college. I think you graduated high school at like 16.
I never graduated high school. I don't have a GED. Like I literally
Amazing.
don't. I didn't even think of it until I wrote my biography and I was like, oh, you're not accredited. But I guess you can get a college degree without a GED. So
it worked out, I think.
It did work out.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got bored one day and I was like, oh, let's go to college. And then my violin professor was like, oh, here's a full scholarship. So it was a little bit of I know.
I got bored. Wait, I got bored one day, so let's go to college.
I mean, I was bored of just staying in my house. But so I had a very different experience. Like I didn't go out. I was illegal to date. It was not, like I wasn't wild. No keg parties for me. So, but I did graduate college at 20. So then I was like, oh, I was out and I was like, I'm going to LA because I'm going to be a famous actor. And that didn't quite work out the way I thought it was.
But so you went into college, violin and math,
yeah.
correct? How did Hollywood happen 3 years later?
I think because when I was homeschooled, like I was so kind of isolated and the things that gave me joy were doing theater. I did a lot of like Fifth Can Girl on the Left, that kind of thing in community theater. And then I also loved talking to my friends online. I mean, even though it was like prehistoric internet days, like I had friends who I could talk to if I moved 3 times in a year, right?
Are they friends you met online or friends?
They're friends I've met online, yeah.
Which I think is pretty common now, but...
It is very common, but back in the day, it was pretty sketchy. Like
even
if you
10 years ago, I think it was like, oh, I met somebody on Twitter. People would be like, what? You used your real name on the internet?
Yeah, but I think it's great that you can have that sort of, meet people. I mean, with dating apps, it's like, that's what you do right now, right? I don't trust that.
It is weird how that has evolved.
Literally, like I remember growing up, my mom would be like, never use your real name. Like, do not do it.
When I met one of my first teammates back in the day in Call of Duty, my mom had to walk in and meet them because she thought an old man was gonna diddle me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. I met up with some friends at like an arcade and like the guild is like the first season is about them meeting in real life and like how it doesn't really gel, but it does because they are friends online. And that's kind of a Pollyanna version of the internet. Yes, there are terrible people on the internet you should not meet in person, but at the same time, it can be a place just like real life. You can meet good people and you can meet bad people. You just have to use your judgment, right?
But you were doing that like even then when kind of the initial pieces were coming together, it was something that I found people that fit with me, that are authentic, and they're gonna be my friends.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And like, even though nowadays it's like, oh wow, the internet turned dark. Like, I still believe in that part of it. It's just, it just early on, it was a little more and not sanitized, but just like protected. And like the geek people were there because they were trying to escape the real world a little bit, and they kind of ruled for a while. And now it's just the online world is the offline world, so everything, the good and bad that comes with it, is there.
Yeah.
In fact, like I think. What's scary is to sometimes, like in my experience, is that the people who are bad have a little bit more amplified voice and more access to you, which is hard to deal with sometimes.
Or like the angry mob is the loudest, and it's
for
hard
sure,
to ignore.
For sure.
So you're doing that in college. It sounds like acting was always something that was interesting to you, but you go to college for music and math.
Yeah.
Was it still something during college or going in that you're like, when I finish, I'm going to Hollywood? Or was that?
For sure.
Okay.
My dad was like, you got to get a real degree. And I was like, I'll get a theoretical math degree. It's not even real. Like nothing I do with is real. But I was like, I could do this. And, I did it. I really love that kind of stuff. I'm terrible with applied math. I don't even want to do my taxes. It's like painful to me.
Okay.
But anything theoretical where my head can be in the clouds is my ideal. So yeah, I mean, I had a full scholarship. So I just did what I had to do to get out, and I got my good grades. I got, I was a valedictorian, and I was like, bye-bye, I'm going to be famous. And that did not work out.
What do you mean it didn't work out?
I mean, it worked out short term. It did not work out.
Of course. Nobody sees that long grind that you were probably on or what the first couple of years look like.
Yeah, everyone thinks you just get off a bus in Hollywood and you're like, put you in a team. You really have this dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not kidding. Go to Earth Cafe. You guys know Earth Cafe. You'll see 15 actresses who are just like, have their legs out and a cowboy hat on. And it's like, just drive by in your Land Rover and pick me up. I'm like, what are you doing, girls? But they really, truly believe if you go to the right party, and you can get picked up for sure. I don't know if that's a career, y'all.
So what was the big, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm just curious, when you say it did not work out, you've said that twice now. What was your biggest struggle in the first short term?
I think that it's not a merit-based society. So here I am like getting all the grades. I'm like, look, I can work hard and be, get where I want. And that's not like, I think, even with streaming, I'm sure like you can be the best streamer, but I mean, I guess, that is more of a skill-based thing. It's a little subjective. It's more skill based, but
Skill
acting
and luck.
is not.
Everything is opportunity, though.
Yeah, exactly. So it is just kind of, it's a lot of luck, but also with Hollywood, it's like you can go to acting class 8 hours a day and that won't make you more prepared to get the business of acting. And so the business of creativity and, my book that I wrote is more about like developing your own inner creativity and how important it is to get into your life in a funny, way. But, to me, the business was something I was like, oh, I don't know how to do this, and I was this weird girl who was way too confident for my looks. I mean, I'm fine, but I'm not. Hollywood standards are like, woo, everyone is gorgeous. So, if you're a little quirky, you're a little off, you play video games and you're a woman, you're like, what? Don't talk about that. It's weird.
Well, especially
I'm so curious.
more recently than 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
Probably now it might be a little different. And
I think it's-
with Marvel movies and everything, I think the weirdness has been a little bit more embraced.
Hopefully, yeah.
So did you know anybody in LA?
I knew some people because I had volunteered for film festivals in Austin.
Okay,
because
so
I went
you
to
had
Austin, UT Austin.
A circle, a little bit?
I had a little bit, but it was from scratch. Like I
That
was
is
just like,
unreal.
yeah, it was not easy. And I would, for my first job was like, it was so hard. It was like a year and a half after I'd moved here. I took all the headshots. They were terrible. Like they're so embarrassing. Like one of them I had the slight mustache. The other one I'm like, hey, hire me. It was so embarrassing. They're so great. But my first job was like a Starburst commercial, and the director hated me. And he kept talking about how white I was because it was a summer campaign.
Jesus.
And so like it was very odd. Yeah, he was like, God, get the light off the albino. I'm like, is this appropriate?
God damn.
And so it ended up that, so anyway, I did the commercial. It was my first professional shoot and I was so excited. And they gave me the times that it would air. And so it was like 11:30 on MTV at PM, So I told my whole family, hey, watch, I'm going to be on TV finally. And they cut me out.
No.
They cut me
that
out.
director had it out for you.
They
Still got
did.
paid though, right?
I mean, I did it. I got in the union.
We'll
Then
take that.
my first check was for a movie called Serial Killers, where in the audition, the director asked me to get topless because it was for the character. And then I was like, no, but then he still hired me to be the best friend of the girl. I guess he convinced to be naked. And I was paid $90 for like 4 days of work because it was non-union, and the check bounced. So
That is tragic.
yeah, I have it framed on my wall because that's what Hollywood is for me. Like that irony.
Yeah, what a beautiful memento.
Wow.
Though. Wait,
good.
but I'm so sorry. I just want to dig in a little deeper on that because I feel I have a lot of admiration for people that just pick up and go and do something that's wildly new and just different from the everyday norm that most people stay on. When you got out here, did you have management that helped you find gigs, or how did you find your way into a Starburst commercial? Like, what was step one in your plan to make it in Hollywood?
I mean, I did what the book told me to do, which was, I don't know, it was like How to Hollywood or something terrible. I sent my headshot out just over and over and over again. And I did free student films. And there's a thing called Backstage West, and they'll like list like student film. Like I have like 10 things I did in silent black and white, like with people who could barely know how to, carry a camera, hold a camera. And so you just kind of like meet people that way, and you take classes, and then you send your headshot like blind to people. And I had agents who would be like, oh, I'm off for the summer. And I'm like, what? You're just, what?
I'm golfing.
I'm golfing. Exactly. And one of them just quit and never told me. Like, you just have to, the hard knocks thing. But I eventually got like a commercial agent.
Okay.
And that's a little bit easier path because then you're just kind of like a meat sack. I'm like, hey, look at this water. It's so great. Yay. I'm an empty husk of a person. Like, and I actually was pretty good at that. So I did a lot of them. I did some cool spots, like not horrible, but a lot of them soul searing.
Just persistence.
Yeah, you just have to keep going. And I certainly wanted to quit a lot. And that's probably why I became addicted to video games, because I was like, any light in my life is great. And let's just, raid 5 hours a day.
So I would imagine Geek and Sundry. Sorry, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, so it sounds like I was looking early on, you did the Judd Apatow, I think it was Post Freaks and Geeks project.
Undeclared. Yeah, I was in that.
And was that one of the first? I know you did Buffy too.
I did Buffy. No, one of the first, I was in Buffy. I did Bring It On Again, which is the very sketchy sequel to Bring It On.
I loved Bring It On. You
Well,
were Bring It On again?
I'm going to Bring It On again. I'm a ballerina who's healed by cheer. So, and I'll remember that forever because those people were not. I was like hanging around with professional cheerleaders. I was like, this is not my people.
Not my people.
No, and they had to
All my
lift me
internet
above.
friends.
And they had to lift me on, and that is hard, y'all. Like those cheerleaders work hard.
Yeah.
Were you lifting or you being lifted?
They lifted me up, and I almost threw up from up there because I have a fear of
Projectile.
heights. I was like, the rictus smile is not faked. And
You
that
didn't have a stunt double?
No.
Wow.
Bring it on again.
I've had stunt doubles a lot in my life, which is fun, but yeah, mostly for fighting because they don't want you to get stabbed in the eye by a stake or whatever.
Fair enough. And so at what point, was it a specific project? Was it a time? Like at what point did you kind of feel, okay, maybe I haven't made it, but like things are starting to work?
I've never felt like I made it.
I think you're doing all right.
Fair enough.
I mean, I pay my bills. That's all I could do. Like I think that, having so many years of struggling to fit into a system that wasn't written necessarily and still isn't like a great fit. I've always had to sort of like work around the system to get my foot in. Any acting roles I've gotten have been cut after like the initial things have been because people saw my work on the internet and was like, oh, I like her type. She's a geeky, fun girl who can be, mostly a lesbian. That's fine. Great. So he's the quirky sidekick, the person who likes to stab people with a sword, but like do a joke. So that's great. I love it. Hire me all the time for that. But I had to show people who I was because I was kind of felt unseen. And that kind of is what spurred me to start writing and creating my own opportunities. And inadvertently, accidentally, like through all the luck and timing and all that stuff, the guild took off. And I loved it. That's when I felt like I made it, making my own stuff and feeling like, I'm really showing who I am to the world. I'm making something with my friends that feels like we're doing something special and funny, and it means something to people to be represented because back then there was little to no gaming. It was before streaming. Yeah, really, like streamers were not even back then when it first started, and so it really felt like I was giving voice to people. I mean, especially women, but also just gamers in general. And so that really felt like, I'm doing something good for the world, and that kind of drives me a lot. I mean, yeah, you got to pay the bills, but at the same time, if you can put a little bit of that into the world, I think that's kind of what we're meant to do ultimately.
I think it's also interesting that now it's a little bit more common for people to find their way into traditional entertainment through these new platforms and new media and YouTube and things like that. I think when you did it, it was way less obvious.
Yeah.
Maybe people were writing or they're finding other ways. Was that something that you ever, like, did you take it seriously at the time as like, this could actually propel my career forward, or was it more of a hobby?
I mean, no. I mean, once I uploaded that video, I was like, oh my God, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And that's why
being the first
the guild, yeah, and just doing that show, and we had a great deal with Xbox after the first season. It was very self-started. Like I chronicle it all in my memoir, which is like I'm way too young for a memoir, but it filled a whole book. So, but
we'll have to do a second one somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my second one is the Embrace Your Weird, which is like cool. the it's more of an interactive workbook to kind of like open up your creativity and like find passions and like just how to work a little bit easier, because that was kind of a hard thing for me over the years to learn how to write and not just be like, oh my God, I hate myself. But yeah, no, I mean, to me, like, yes, people find their way around the Hollywood system a little bit, but it is really hard. Like Lily Singh is like, I think the top of the heap. She really navigated that really well. But I think if you're like an outlier, really, you're undeniable in your following, you can get a chance, but you still sort of have the stink of the online world in a sense. People really label you in a way. And
that'll have to be generational too.
I think so. It seems like it's opening up a little bit more, but in my time, like I was very careful to not be a host a lot. Like I got a lot of opportunities to host things, and I do not have the steady nature of a host because I'm sure a lot of hosts. They have to be like rock solid and
right. But I feel like you put your own spin on it. I mean, obviously you don't want to do any hosting, but I feel like you could do anything at this point. Just hearing you talk for about like 30 minutes, like you're so incredibly articulate that I'm just enjoying listening.
I belied you.
Yeah. Hey. Well, maybe I should be an actor because I didn't mean any of it.
Oh, yes, burn. No. I mean, it was always conscious to me, like, if you become sort of a host and a personality, then people will only see you as that, and you can't be an actor anymore. And so that's always been like a line that I've had to kind of tread, in that I love being myself and I love doing the things online that I love, and yet I want to still be an actor. And Hollywood they need you to be a simple thing that they could throw anywhere. And if you're a host, it's just easy. They just throw you in there. Yep. And so, yeah, I think, listen, if you're self-made, you just always have to go back to the thing that makes you happy and the thing that you found success in, because everything else is just kind of gravy and it'll go away at the end of the day.
So how many people did you have working with you on Geek and Sundry?
So Geek and Sundry, so YouTube invested in 100 channels. It was back in 2012. And I was one of the few kind of homegrown people who got a channel. It was like me and Hank Green and, like Fine Brothers, I think.
Wait, I actually remember that time.
Yeah. So a lot of it was a lot of Hollywood stuff, and they just dumped a bunch of stuff that no one wanted to watch. It was a lot of volume that they had us do, and they gave us a lot of money, but it didn't go very far. So we were just like dying. And I talk about this in my book, how I had a nervous breakdown. It was real fun. I had at a certain point, like then they re-upped my financing for the second year. We were one of 10 people who actually got reinvested in, and then they stopped. And then I sold the company to Legendary Entertainment. And I think at the height of it, we had, every show, like Tabletop was, a big production. There'd be like 30, 40 people just working on that show during the filming of it. As far as people in the office, like it was about 20. So it was a fairly big company at the time.
Okay.
And you were running the company while you were still starring and everything.
Yeah, I'm very hands-on with producing. I love editing. I love like a lot of the ideas, like Will and I created Tabletop together. A lot of the show ideas were mine. I was also doing a weekly show at the time. I was also acting. It was too much. Like I deserved a burnout, and I burned out real hard. But we made a lot of really great things, I think. And I miss that I miss the world of web video, because I know you guys do web video, but it's like just not what it used to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's sad to me, because especially I have expertise in that area. No one needs it anymore.
Well, I think it's funny that just hearing you talk through that, I think there are very few people who are balancing both running this business and founding a company and managing people and all that with the creative and even the talent piece.
Yeah.
Frankly, it reminds me of what Matt's done with 100 Thieves. And I think
I have a partner that does all the operational stuff.
I had an operational person too.
Okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, when a company is based on your personality, anything you're not in, it's like, oh, I don't want to see that. It's really hard. And when you're the face of a company and you're doing the creative, like you should either be a face or the creative or the operational, right? And
Just pick one.
Yeah, well, I think in order to be, because I think the mistake I did, I would, when you're being pulled in so many directions and you don't have enough money to do things properly, you start spending your efforts and your energies in things where you're not necessarily the best. Because I was I was surely creative, and my face worked. I should have just divorced myself from everything else. But at the same time, you get drawn in because you love this thing. It's your life. You eat, breathe, and sleep this company, and you sort of bleed your energies out so that you don't have anything left for the thing that only you could do. And so I guess whenever anybody asks me like, hey, how do you start a business? I'm like, okay, you have to separate the business and the creative, and you have to really find out what you do well and make sure that you're plugging up any holes that you're not good at with other people. Yeah. Because you doing something badly, like I would be like, I need to redo this Photoshop. Like I don't need to do these thumbnails, like let's get somebody to do thumbnails.
It's kind of like terrifying, like how good of advice this is for me.
Oh, good.
Because I definitely think I actually feel like I'm going to be talking to a therapist right now.
Oh, really?
I need help.
Tell me about your childhood.
Well, no, I just feel there's so many similarities in all the things you're saying. Like these are thoughts that I've had like every night where I'm feeling a little burnt out.
Yeah.
We've been at it for like 2.5 years, and I'm on camera like 24/7, and then I get pulled into a board meeting, and then I get pulled into like a creative meeting, then I get pulled into like this partnerships meeting. Just like it's a lot.
No, it's too much for one person. It honestly is, and you will burn out. And I burned out so bad I didn't write for years. Like I really did burn out.
And it's probably not fun to talk about, but what was the burnout for you? Did all productivity levels just like stop, or were you still working? I was still parading the shell of myself around to sell the company. I was acting. But I think the essence of what I loved doing, which was creating things, the guild, being the writer and the creative force behind things, that dried up. And then I started feeling scared because I'm like, this is what I loved. What am I doing here? I had a lot of body image. I started like only drinking kale juice. I started not sleeping. I literally would be so out of my mind that I didn't even know if I liked Brussels sprouts or not. Like I genuinely had a nervous breakdown.
They have bacon on them.
It was, anything with bacon on them. But like I was screaming inside every night. Like I was thinking like, what if I just get lupus or something? Maybe they'll stop making me go to New York.
Oh my God.
That dark. Like I talk about it in my, and the great thing about sharing stories like this is that in my memoir, like a lot of people came to me later and were like, I started creating because of you. I'm great because you went through so much to get there. I feel like, oh, somebody else shares that hard path with me. Or like, you shared your stories about anxiety and depression, and I feel like I can get help now because you got help and you showed me that there's a path out of this. So, I think the more authentic we can be in our art and everything that we do, the more we'll help people because we're being personal, like digging deep into these areas that we sort of hide most of the time. Is actually what resonates and can affect people in the most positive way.
I think what resonates with me the most right now is what we talked about before the podcast started, where you said that you're just never satisfied. And I feel like
Yeah.
it can be a double-edged sword in the way that you talk about it, where you're always just pushing and pushing and pushing, but it leads to being burnt out. It sounds like you just can't turn off your brain. You're always thinking about something. You're always wondering what's next.
Yeah, and that's what I'm working very actively on. After writing this book, Embrace Your Weird, it's really essentially about how to love who you are, like really genuinely appreciate and love who you are, especially your differences, and look at creativity as a way that it's self-care, getting your voice out into the world in a pure way, not just because like, oh, I'll get more likes if I do this, or I'll get more hits if this is a great business strategy. When you are basically wearing your insides on your outside all the time, you're empty inside, right? And so you're not living authentically, and you're always chasing fulfillment.
Right.
And so this is something I'm personally working on a lot, because writing the book helped me get to the point where I'm like, oh, I should feel okay about myself if I just become a barista next week. Like outside of like the financial things, like I should feel proud of myself. Anything. If I lose one of this component, like I'm still a good person. I'm still worthy of being here and being loved by the people who love me and loving other people. So like that is something I think it's taken a long time to get to, but I feel like in retrospect, if I had just been gentler and treated myself better, I think becoming a parent has really helped, because I have a little 2-year-old and I'm like, I would never talk to her the way I talk to myself in the mirror. I would never demand that she do the things that I'm demanding of myself. So why don't we treat ourselves as gently? And yeah, maybe we won't be as financially successful or like as famous or all this stuff, but like in the end of the day, once you unplug from that, it goes away.
Yeah.
And so if it goes away, that means it wasn't really feeding you to begin with. They're not loyal. Like you have to invest in the people who pick you up at the airport if you need an airport pickup, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just always a balance. And that's kind of why I left my company a couple years ago, because I was finding myself, I got over my burnout, but I did find myself sort of like clocking in and doing the things that weren't fulfilling me. And because I was busying myself with all these external things that weren't creative in my voice in the world, I was feeling very upset and frustrated. And because I had the baby, and I was like, I can't do all this stuff at once. So I had to step back from that, which was like leaving a baby. But ultimately, it made me a healthier person. So I'm not telling you to quit. I'm just telling you my advice to you would be really police yourself and treat yourself kindly and cut anything you can off, even if it discomforts other people, because either it will fill up or either people will fill those roles or they won't. And then you just have to deal with it.
That's genuinely helpful. Like,
Oh,
thank you
good.
so much for the advice.
We started really combatively, and now we're best friends.
Yeah. Did we just become best friends?
Point of
We
a
did.
podcast.
We
Yes.
became besties.
How do you, I think most people are kind of always trying to balance part of what you're talking about, which is being authentic to yourself and like loving yourself, as you put it, with hopefully a healthy level of ambition and self-growth.
Yeah.
Have you found effective ways to do that where you aren't basically just saying, okay, I'm not going to be as ambitious as I previously wanted to. And maybe that's what it is. But I would hope that there's probably some room for, I want to be great and I want to do all these things within a bounds that fits me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, listen, I'm the most ambitious person. I'm always like, if you tell me no, I'll do exactly what you told me not to. Like every step of the way, people were telling me, don't do internet video, don't start this company, don't do things about tabletop, don't do things about D&D. Like people were just crapping on every idea I had. But I was in touch with myself inside beyond all the external gratifications enough to be like, no, this is cool. And I know that the people I know people who will like this. So I'm going to make it for them. And so I think it's, I think social media, and especially being having your profession be dependent on people liking you. And, if, I got to promote my book today, I better, post a picture of me in a pretty dress, like to compensate, and sort of like, okay, you're kind of ruled by that. But at the same time, if you put all your energy into that, then you're betraying yourself. So I think
Terrifying thought.
whatever your ambition is, make sure your ambition is not just for the external gratification of it, right? Yeah. So I talk about this in my book a lot. Like I moved to Hollywood and I just wanted to be famous. I was like, I'm destined to be famous. I want attention. Like I'm perfect and special. And then I was really, I had enough setbacks to be like, well, do you really like this? And I had to really examine what my motivation was and would I act without all this external gratification? And I did conclude I do love it, but I reprioritized myself so that I was always kind of putting forward the things that I felt passionately about, that was genuine to me. And therefore I can be ambitious in those areas. Because if you're ambitious in areas that you don't care about, right? Like I just want to be famous. Like those are why people do drugs and they burn out and they're just like a mess, right? Those people have been seeking something that doesn't actually satisfy themselves inside. Yeah. And I think ultimately
chasing fulfillment in the wrong places.
Exactly. So if you're chasing what really genuinely gives you meaning, like me, I have concluded that the things that give me meaning are creating things and talking to my audience, however large or small that is. And hopefully my passion will transfer to enough people that can be a living. And so it can get out of whack because we're in an online world. So you just have to constantly reevaluate, like, okay, am I doing the paths that I genuinely love, or am I doing them for external reasons? And as long as you do that, you can be as ambitious as you want, right?
This sounds, I think I need to read Embrace Your Weird.
I hope so. It's a workbook, so you have to do homework in it.
So now, can you give me a little bit more context to that? Because what are like the workbook aspects of it?
Yes.
What do I have to do? What is my homework?
You would need a pen, although a lot of people have been using markers and just embellishing it. I wanted people to break the rules, and so I'm telling people to tear the books, tear a page out and color it. And people are like, "Ooh, God!" They get real freaked out, but when they start, they're feeling free. And I guess the heart of the book is that your differences are your superpowers. They're the things that will make you. I mean, nobody ever shared a video because it's like every other video, right? No one loves a streamer because they're like 20 other streamers. You have to lead with what makes you different, especially in this online world. And a lot of people are not encouraged to do that. So that's one. And then the second thing is like embrace the work of the creativity that you choose, because it's not only a self-care thing, like getting your voice out there is taking care of yourself, but also the work of it is the thing to sign up to. Don't sign up for the end result of being on the poster. Sign up for the work of like, I'm going to show up and set and do good work today.
And the journey over the destination.
Exactly. And so, every step of the way I talk, and it's funny and geeky and it has like fart jokes. So it's not like totally woo-woo and deep. But there, I will talk about something and then I'll have like an exercise. Like one of the exercises is like, write or draw about a cat, any cat that you can think of. And then the message is like, no matter who you are on earth, your cat paragraph is going to be totally different from another person. And so it's just meant to like, hey, everybody is different. All of our creativity is different. We could be looking at the same cat and the words I put down would be totally different from your words. And we should embrace that. So yeah, and throughout the thing, I'll talk about procrastination and, have an exercise to kind of
Can you help me with procrastination right now?
I mean, it's hard, but you have to be, just read the book.
I'm going to read the book.
Okay.
I feel like you've gone through a lot to help me get through what I'm going through right now.
Oh, that's really lovely.
No, I'm serious.
I feel sorry for you because that's a hard place to be.
Well, no,
A little bit.
You're speaking directly to me right now.
Good.
I feel like
Good.
Great. Is the book out already?
Yeah, it's out. It came out like the first. It's a bestseller, New York Times bestseller.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the external gratification I was thinking, but it's very good. That just means more people like it. So yeah, I'm very excited about it because I wrote it just because I just want to help other people. Like from now on, I just want to kind of work on my own creative stuff. But it really helped me just writing the book to put myself back together again.
Right.
Because when you have like a breakdown or a big change in your life, and I had a baby and I was like, who the hell am I now? What is this thing? I got to feed it. I was like, whoa, you signed up for something you did not expect. It was only because the doctors told me I couldn't have babies. I was like, all right, I'm going to do it.
Theoretical math and babies.
Theoretical math and babies. But anyway, so I did that and I was like, oh no, I got to let go of all these things. And they were so part of my world, like, playing video games every day and like watching TV and like going to events and things. I'm like, I have to let some of this go. Like, what do I care about? What do I want to spend my time on?
Right.
And it really made me like, the process of writing the book helped me put myself back together. And I think it's a much more healthy way. And I'm happier now. So hopefully it helps other people too.
It's interesting to hear your take on social media because I think Jackson and I talk about it a lot, all the time, really. Like what life would be without cell phones or social media nowadays. And it really is unbelievable how much in the creator space now you have to cater towards what the audience wants or what they're going to seek out rather than what you actually want to do. And I'm curious what like the long-term ramifications will be in like 10 years with all these kids now who are growing up on social media in grade school, watching TikTok on Twitter and Instagram and just trying to conform to something that they aren't and probably never will be.
I mean, I think if you look at child actors, it's like that syndrome where you're always kind of programmed to perform and get praise all the time. And so if you're only thinking, and especially for kids, because like you're forming your identity when you're a kid. And if everything is about like, oh, I'm a girl, I'm going to be like sexy because that's what people love. I got to look like Kylie Jenner to get like people to like me because I need this metric. I feel like that screws up a lot of people.
I was actually in the In-N-Out parking lot waiting for my food a couple days ago, and my girlfriend showed me two side-by-side photos and asked me how old this girl was on the right side. I wish I could pull it up.
Oh,
and I was like,
no.
well, she's got to be like 22. and the girl was 13.
Oh my God.
And it was like her school photo, and then it was in comparison to like a school photo of a 13-year-old girl from the 90s, and it was just night and day. And it's that thought to me is scary.
I think the other thing, I don't know, that's one side of the coin. I think we have to look towards the opposite side of the coin in terms of all this stuff. In that, I don't know, when you think about the stuff that you can just unravel and go down the rabbit hole deeper and deeper. I think on the other side, though, going back to what you were talking about, and it's certainly true for me, is more so than ever now, I think kids have an opportunity to find communities and like-minded people in these, like, creators and entertainers have never been closer to their audience.
Yeah.
And at least in the positives, I think it can be a really powerful way for people to figure out identity and all those things growing up. And my hope, I guess, because we're not going to reverse technology. Instagram's not going to go away.
Yeah.
My hope is that more and more kids trend towards, or maybe they're chasing the Kylie Jenner thing for a little while and then they realize like this isn't real, and they trend towards finding, whether it's niche creators or bigger creators or entertainment or whatever, that is a little bit more aligned with, these are my people.
Yeah.
Because
I agree. I agree. I
point.
think like subset, like to me, the internet is always like, I don't feel like I belong where I am. So I could find somebody online to make me accepted, especially around, people who are in the Midwest and like don't have people understanding their sexuality and try to help them work through that. It's so important, and feeling represented in a way. Like that's the, I think anything is like, there's no like, let's turn it off, like it's just being vigilant to protect yourself, because we can forget ourselves when we kind of enter that hive mind, I think.
Yeah. I'm always skeptical of like there's this temptation to just say like, oh, things are so bad now. And like you can find, it's funny, you can find like news articles in like the 1900s when they're talking about fiction books, like you could plug in tweets.
Oh, yeah.
Fiction books, and they're like, these are so ridiculous. They're making kids' minds like turn to mush, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, no,
like,
for sure. They're like, I know in the 15th century, you can read some essays about like these women and they're these younger people, like they got
Showing
married
too
at
much
12. Like
ankle.
they're showing too much ankle or like cleavage. So yeah, no, it's all just change. And I think, I basically was very prominent during the advent of the internet age, right? And just like, and it was so exciting because people were breaking rules all the time and there were new platforms every day. And like, it was really rewarding outsider behavior. Now it's a little more endemic, but at the end of the day, if you want to break out, you really have to be true to who you are. And that is healthy in itself. So like, that's why I wrote this book, because I really want people to be proud of who they are and stick to it, even though you'll have this outside world always pulling on you. Always go back to who you are inside.
I think go ahead.
No.
One of the cool things about this book too is I think more so than ever, I don't know, when I was a kid, I wanted to be Derek Jeter. I wanted to be a baseball player. And now every kid, whether they want to be a pro gamer or an influencer or whatever, it's all through the lens of like, I want to have this audience. I want to be an influential in some way and frankly, like a creative in some way.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know if that will work out for everyone, and we'll see how the future changes things. But I think it's a cool reminder, both for young people who are coming up, but also all of us, that I think generally, unless you turn into someone like you guys, life is almost becoming less and less creative. Like as you get more into, you become a doctor, you work in business, you do whatever. It's almost like you could be creative when you were a kid. You loved music or you loved art or you loved etc.
Yeah.
And I think one of the cool things that comes to mind when you talk about this is pursuing everybody to say what are the creative outlets for you? What
Absolutely.
is your cat?
Yeah. No, example. I think, and if you look at TikTok, I'm like, oh my God, people are super creative on there. You can't crap on people's stuff. Like, I'm sorry, streaming is super hard. Like that kind of lifestyle of it's not easy. And so in my book, I talk about this, like, okay, you have a dream. Do you know what that actual day-to-day of that dream is, right? Do you know what Derek Jeter does every day? Do you want to sign up for that much training? Do you know what an influencer does every day? Do you know how many videos it makes? Do you know how hard they work? Really get under the hood and make sure your dream is there. And that if that's the work you want to sign up for, do it. Because if you're being creative, I truly believe that you're following, because you're the only person who's like that in existence, right? So getting your voice out in the world is super important before you die, because I'm a real uplifting kind of lady.
What are you working on right now? Because sounds like we've gotten a little bit of a backstory and what led you up to this point.
A little bit. That was okay. Yeah. No. I have a lot of really cool things that I cannot talk about, but acting wise, I have
NDAs and such.
Yeah, unannounced things. I have a couple of writing things that I'm very excited about. I'm working on now, and I have a couple of acting things working on. So basically, after doing this book, I was like, you need to take your own advice, Felicia. And I'm really I'm emphasizing the things that only I could do and the things that I would write even if nobody ever saw it.
Right.
And I think I have the luxury of doing that. I do work and I pay my bills and I have to support that child. She's really cute. That child, that's terrible. But I do want in my life something that makes me fulfilled. Because if I had hung my hat on that during the Geek and Sundry days where I was kind of like being overwhelmed all the time, if I had just had one creative thing going through, even if it was a hobby, I think I would have stayed a little more functional. And so I think having that alive in your life is super important. So that's what I'm focusing on going forward.
Were you always writing as a kid, or was it something that just you found a love for and a passion for as you grew older?
No, I hated it. It was the hardest thing to do to write the Guild. It was literally like pulling teeth. I literally would have pulled a tooth out of my jaw rather than write. I would cry. I was never like, when I was a kid, I was afraid to write because I was such a perfectionist that I didn't want to put anything down that wasn't perfect. And so I never wrote until I got into sketch classes. And that, they're only 3 to 5 pages. So I kind of like got my toe. I dipped my toe in the water and I was like, okay, this is gonna be fun. And then I tried to do longer things and I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard. I can't do it. And I went through a lot of hard, that's what I talk about a lot, just trying to get, because if I had just been easier on myself earlier on, I think I would have written a lot more. And I kind of want those stories to be out there. And I wish that's the only thing I kind of regret, that I had just been easier on myself and written easier. But I've discovered a new love for it. But even though it's still freaking hard, man.
Yeah, writing has always seemed overwhelming to me, and so I was just curious how it sounds like you had a memoir that you wrote yourself. I would imagine.
I did.
And then a second. This is your second book.
Second book, yeah.
And
I wrote everything. I
do you plan to do more in the future?
Yeah, I'd love to do a novel. Right. I'd love to do a novel, and I have a couple of ideas. I've had a couple of TV shows that I have not sold that I still love those ideas, and I would really like to maybe turn those into. So next year, I think that's on the agenda. So yeah.
If so, this is going to be a completely random question, but I'm curious where your head's at. If you could have acted in one blockbuster film in the last 10 years, what do you think you would have picked?
Oh my gosh, this is really hard, y'all.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to put you on the spot because we haven't had an actor on the set before, and so I'm just,
really.
Yeah, I'm just curious what you're interested in.
Get some actors in here.
We're trying our best.
Oh.
We're still trying to get the Selfmade podcast out there, and somehow we finessed and conned you into coming on.
No, whatever. I was excited because this is more my speed anyway.
We didn't even get a chance to talk about video games as well.
I know. We can. God, this is really hard. I mean, I'd love to be in like something like Jurassic Park or something.
I could see
like
that.
Or like Blade Runner. Like, I mean, that would be like my ultimate. I love costume dramas too. I mean, even Wedding Crasher, like one of those kind of like really stupid like comedies would be super fun.
I just rewatched Wedding Crashers last week.
So bad but good. It's just like so good.
It's the best.
I know. Yeah. So I guess those are the ones that I really love. I mean, I love indie films too, but yeah. I mean, that's you said blockbuster, so yeah.
Have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
No, I haven't. I'm so behind. I know. I don't get out of the house very often.
Do you like Quentin Tarantino?
I do. I've sat next to him at parties. And
really?
He ignored me, but I wasn't in person. So
he seems
I would bet he ignores a lot.
He seems very eccentric.
I think so. He was fine. Like, he ordered pancakes. It's fine. Like, I don't know. I've heard many stories that I can't repeat, but I think he's fine. Everybody's eccentric in a way.
I love Hollywood stories. Like I have a friend, and I'm not going to name that person, but they've had a lot of stories about actors and actresses that they've worked with, and they've told me their favorites. They've told me their least favorites.
Some people are terrible, but some people are wonderful, and it's just like anywhere else. Streamers who are
Absolutely.
like, oh God, nobody knows how terrible that person is, right?
Yeah.
You can tell me some hot goss. You got hot goss.
Yeah, I could name a few streamers.
You could. You're not going to.
They're not going to. You don't do it.
I don't
Never
know. Could be some pretty good clickbait. This is what the kids want to watch. I actually saw the Joker in theaters on Sunday. I just love talking about film. Obviously, I am a big fan of the blockbusters, but me and Jackson always talk about Inglourious Bastards and the new Martin.
I mean, he's wonderful. His filmmaking is great.
Yeah, no, and then I'm really excited. I'm curious to get your guys' temperature on it. Martin Scorsese talking about the Marvel comic movies, basically saying that he thinks the Avengers and all these superhero movies are basically theme parks. It's not real cinema. He's also coming out with The Irishman, which is like Joe Pesci's like
the
first
Goodfellas
return
successor.
to acting in a very long time. And I obviously love Goodfellas, and they said it's like a masterpiece, the reviews so far. So I'm very excited about that.
What do you think of all the Marvel, kind of the Marvelization of Hollywood?
I know a lot of people who do Marvel movies. I definitely touched Chris Hemsworth's arm at a party one time, and I was
feel?
I was too drunk, and I said, "You're very attractive."
That's
This
awesome.
was before Thor came out, though, for real. And I was not.
You were betting early.
I was betting.
Early
I was not
Hemsworth
even
stock.
hitting on him. I was just observing. He had a very large bicep. Okay, I'm sorry. That was one of the most embarrassing moments
Did he
at a
say
Comic-Con
anything to you?
party. He was like, "Thank you."
I probably would
He
have
was
done the same
he
thing.
was charming. He was very
Yeah, yeah,
nice. It was fine. It was an exchange. To me, I've been like a proponent of geek entertainment and the geek perspective on the world, but from before it was popular, like it is mainstream now, right? It's like, and so I loved the sort of outsider geek perspective of like, Comic-Con was for like the artists and like the people doing web video. Like I liked that part. I like the indie geek stuff.
Yeah.
And so when I see that Comic-Con is completely taken over by 17 Star Treks and Star Wars and Marvel, it's
Culture
like,
is mainstream culture now.
exactly, which is great because like there's not only a lot more representation, there's a lot more women into it. Like I feel like it's a more equal, like awesome, it's just a more robust fan base, and I think that's great. I'm not disparaging of anything in Marvel. I feel like this Disney Plus thing is going to be so, it's almost like it was such a treat to have a Marvel movie, and now it's just like every day.
Yeah.
And so that sort of regularity to me kind of robs the specialness of it. I don't know if that'll be a good or bad thing. I'm super excited for the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus. Like I cannot wait to see a Star Wars TV show. So that's where I'm more excited.
You would not like our roommate Jack because he hates Star Wars. He thinks it's his most overrated film.
Very upsetting. He says Transformers is better than Star Wars.
We're not going to talk about that because we only have about like 5 more minutes, and I asked you.
I mean, we could talk all day about that jerk.
yeah, we could go wake him up.
Call him a jerk.
Transformers?
You should just tear apart his life. We should get him. He
I don't
literally
understand
believes
that, but does he
Transformers
have
better than
taste?
Star
It's
Wars.
just provocative.
It gets the people going.
I think he really genuinely doesn't like Star Wars. The Transformers thing,
It's
though,
fine
it's like,
not to like Star Wars. Like I've been to the Star Wars archives. So up at Lucas Ranch, you go in and they have a special archive there with all the original props and all the original costumes, right? It's very hard to get into. Somebody was a fan and let me in. So, but there's things in there. If you read the history of Star Wars, it is an indie film. Like it is like web video.
Yeah.
And so I went down and I was like looking at some of the stuff, and I was like, oh, it looked like it was like a grenade thing. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And they showed me the actual like ships that they would paint. The backdrops. There's no CGI, right?
yeah.
They would paint the ships on shower curtain doors, so, like shower doors. So the glass shower doors are all the backdrops of a Star Wars movie. That's how they did special
way.
effects. And they would pull them out and they showed me. And I was like, and let me just tell you, they look better than CGI, 100%.
The creativity of film and how like forced perspective.
For sure. Like what they did.
So
Do that,
interesting to me.
1976, I think it was.
Yeah,
Star Wars.
and so anyway, there were these, absolutely, 1976. And I was like, oh, that's a grenade. They were like, oh yeah, that's a grenade. And I forget exactly when they used it. I was like, is that? And she's like, yeah, it's made out of Dixie cups.
That is unbelievable.
They literally, the props were made out of Dixie
gotta
cups.
go.
And
Talk
that's
about,
gotta
like
get
a
in there.
force of nature of creativity from Lucas, just to like, I'm gonna find a way to put this in the world.
Nobody
regardless.
wanted to do that
Yeah.
movie. Everybody
Yeah.
passed. It was trash. It was like a terrible low, but and it was like this thing he loved and had faith in. And so I always think about that as sort of like web video. Like there's nothing that stops anybody from making a movie in their backyard right now. Like nothing. You can learn all the, look at Freddie Wong and everything, like what he's done over the years. Like incredible. His, production value is as high as most movies out there, right? So
Yeah.
there's no excuse at all. And I think Star Wars actually like predates that, and it was very inspiring to me.
I absolutely love that thought because there's a group of kids in Africa. I actually, I don't go on Facebook often, but it was one of the Facebook videos that popped up on my feed. And it's a group of kids in Africa that are making like special effects, superhero short films on cell phones.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think you would actually be super interested. If
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up.
You would have to take the time to look it up. We only have a couple more minutes. This is going to sound completely random. Have you ever watched Black Mirror on Netflix?
Some of it. I watched Bandersnatch,
Bandersnatch. Oh, okay.
which was cool. It was fine.
Yeah, I think I was actually a part of that campaign, and I got to interview the directors. I think
cool.
it was like a great introduction to what TV and film could become in the future, obviously as technology advances and all these things. Can you tell me just a little bit more about Voyage to the Stars?
Oh, yeah.
'Cause I know we talked about Geek and Sundry. We talked about Embrace Your Weird.
Yeah, Voyage to the Stars is the last thing I came here to plug. It is it's an improvised sci-fi podcast where Basically, we're a group of people trying to get back to Earth, and we inevitably destroy a bunch of planets along the way. It's very funny. It has me and Colton Dunn from Superstore, who's actually a huge gamer himself, very geeky dude, and Janet Varney, who is Legend of Korra. She was the Korra in Legend of Korra.
Way.
She was in Stand Against Evil. Yeah, she's been in a million
Love
different things. And my friend Steve Berg, who's been in like Drunk History and like Between Two Ferns, and like he was in Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog with me back in the day. And so then we just added a cast member, Kirsten Vangsness from Criminal Minds. And so
Angela from The Office is
Angela from The Office. Yes, she's so funny. That's my favorite one because I go crazy, y'all. And people are like, what the hell are you doing? I was like, I'm just letting my inner bitch out. Just let me. It's really, really funny. She's so funny. Yeah, Oscar Nunes for The Office. My friend Jesse Cox is one of the episodes. He's so funny. Harvey Guillen, I don't know. He's in What We Do with the Shadows. He's my friend, and I don't even actually know how to pronounce his last name. Sorry, Harvey. And so we have some amazing guest stars this season, and it's just really fun. So basically, we get like an outline, and all we know is like, okay, here's your beginning, middle, and end, and all that dialogue is made up. So we just literally improvise the whole thing. And so it's actually a contest to just make ourselves laugh in the booth. You know how it is.
A little bit like D&D-esque almost, like on a podcast.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
So yeah, you can get it free anywhere. Our second season is out. Like it's all free. Just
Felicia Day, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I you know what? And I apologize, and I don't mean for this to sound rude at all. I didn't really know much about you before going into this.
Oh, great. That's fine.
I'm beyond intrigued. You are brilliant.
Wow.
Truly.
Oh, we are best friend, and I believe that.
You just seem ridiculously talented, and I want to learn more. Is there anything that you want to talk about again before we sign off here? I know you got to head out.
No, you could just, my book is Embrace Your Weird. It's in any of the stores. You can get an audiobook too. And I am just everywhere Felicia Day if you would like to hear more from me.
Spectacular. We're going to have links in the description below. Alex will take care of that for any of you guys like me that want to learn more. But just thank you so much for taking the time. It sounds like you're wildly busy.
Thank you so much.
It meant a lot, and I appreciate the advice.
I'm excited. I'm going to follow up on you. I'm going to get your card. I'm going to be like, what did you do this month for yourself?
I would love that.
has never had a business card, but we will give you his contact information.
Listen, Jackson, don't be mean to me.
Wow.
I'm in a delicate place. I appreciate you guys tuning in. No, thank you. The pleasure was all ours. Rock and Mortars, thank you so much for being able to allow us to have this podcast and bring on wonderful guests like Felicia. This is available Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes. And you guys should also watch it on YouTube because I think it's a little bit more engaging when you can see it in video. But hope you guys have a fantastic day. Make sure to leave a thumbs up or 5 stars if you feel like it. And Jackson, I'm going to let you take us out.
That's all we got. Thanks so much.
We got to get you an outro.
I don't have a YouTube outro yet.
You need a catchphrase, Jackson.
Yeah.
What is it? I got you.
Jackson Doll, the Crimson Chin.
What was that?
We'll see you later.
That was not even
I want
words.
yours suggested.
Yeah, Jackson out.
Jackson out.
Oh boy, that was so different.